Hey, my name's Beechey from ATVstore. So a lot of you guys know me for, helping you with parts and accessories and such like that. Not a lot of you will know all about my racing background. So with the Finke Desert Race coming up, it is something I would like to share a bit of my personal experiences around, as it's a very well-known event, and I've been lucky enough to have success there, and I've won that event twice, which was really good for my racing career back in the day, and also helped a lot with business to learn what I needed to know to be able to help people and give them the best advice. So, my background when it comes to riding and business is, I spent years racing motocross from the age of 15 up to 22. I started off, as a C grade motocross racer, working my way up to A grade, and then being able to do a few professional races, not at the level that I would have liked to get to, but it was great learning along the way. And then I made the switch to ATVs when I was 22. At the same time, I also started up as power sports business, working on ATVs side by side, selling parts for them, and then kept doing that while I was racing. And then once the racing was over, I was able to continue doing that, including having a Polaris dealership, selling vehicles, and just interacting with customers on a daily basis, which when it comes down to it, that was my passion. I've always enjoyed interacting with customers and being able to help them find what they need and just get the right advice. Trying to help people has been the number one thing when it comes to being in business, and it's something I've always enjoyed very much. My background as a mechanic was always very helpful. Just talking to customers about where parts go on their vehicle or what sort of issues they might be having that mechanical background was definitely very beneficial, as I find it now on a daily basis. I'm not on the phones and helping customers as much these days, but we have a great customer service team that I interact with every day. So those guys are always getting asked questions that only a mechanic would know. So having that knowledge and being able to answer those questions has been very beneficial for me. It was something different. You just didn't see it a lot, and I saw some of the top guys overseas, the way they would ride an ATV around a motocross track like it was nothing, doing faster laps than top dirt bike guys. There was something about it that was different, and I wanted to do that. I went straight into it and I went full on in. My goal was to be the best ATV racer in Australia at the time. I worked really hard on it. Going to a track on an ATV, guys laugh, they think you're gonna be slow, you're not gonna do the jumps. So when you're out there and you're doing the biggest jumps on the track and you're going past guys that are doing a decent pace on a motocross bike, it always made me happy and made me smile. And just seeing what their reactions to how they would see an ATV go when it was going fast, it was really cool and something I really enjoyed being a part of, and doing it for a few years and helping get that out there a lot more definitely helped generations for after, because there's a lot of really good riders, ATV riders and racers in Australia, which is excellent, and I think it was really cool to be around at the start of when it was sort of, for some people, becoming a cool thing, people seeing what an ATV could actually do and realizing they weren't just a farm vehicle was pretty special. The first time I went to Finke, everyone had been telling me for years just how good it was, but also how hard it was, and at the time I was racing ATV motocross. I was fit, I could put together a 15 or 20 minute race and keep it all well and working as it should, which was great. So I guess I probably didn't take into account just how hard it was going to be racing for over 3 hours, top speed, as fast as you can go from start to finish. So that was definitely something that the second year I went back, I was more mindful of. The first year, I remember getting to the 30 kilometre mark and knowing that it's a 230 kilometre race. I got to the 30 kilometre mark and I saw the sign, 30K, and just thinking, I'm not even going to finish this thing. Just how hard is it? And there's just no way I'm gonna make it to the other end, because I was already exhausted, my arms were sore, my hands were tired, I was already starting to sit down because I was absolutely just wrecked already. But it was awesome, by the time the 60 kilometre sign came around, I had a smile on my face and I was actually enjoying it. Everything was flowing really well and the nerves had settled down and the race just kept going. There was moments where you just gotta be on your game all the time. You can't get lazy and you can't start thinking everything's going fine, I can relax, because a big hole or a big whoop will just jump out in front of you at any stage, and I had it happen. I remember sitting on 110 through a section and obviously I missed a hazard sign. So I'm sitting on 110 and next thing there's a row of whoops in front of me and I'm just launched through the air, and luckily just survived. Like I just landed, the bike kept going and we just kept on trucking, but it could have ended very badly. So I learned a lot the first year I went to Finke about the preparation, how to keep your mind sort of relaxed and calm, and that it is a long race and anything could happen. So that was, the first year was a big learning curve, which was really cool. Definitely made big changes for the second year. So the first year at Finke, I managed to finish second, which was really cool because a lot of guys were thinking being a motocross guy, I wouldn't have a lot of luck there. But growing up, I rode in the bush a lot. I rode trails and stuff more than I ever raced motocross. And I enjoy that, you know, I enjoy spending a day out in the bush more than I enjoy cutting laps around motocross track, and that was always the way. So I got through it, but that first year was so hard on the body and the mind. The second year I went in with a different idea. One of my friends taught me about when you get to Alice Springs, you need to go out and do some riding and get your body and your eyes and your mind used to going at a fast pace. So that's what I did the second year. I went out, got there a week before, we did some pre-running. My mate would say to me, you need to find your desert legs. So, you know, that's what we did. It was great. You go out, find a dirt road, sit on top speed for 15, 20 minutes so that your mind and your eyes and your body adjusted to it. Then you go and find a whoop section and you do exactly the same thing and your body got used to it. So that come race day, there was no adjustment needed. You just got into it and did what you needed to do. So, you know, that year I'd spent a lot more time on the bike doing long distance practice for Finke. I had good qualifying time, so I got to start pretty much up the front, and I had a great run down to Finke. You stay there overnight. I had a great run back the next day. Definitely took a toll on my body. I got there after the first day and all the skin was off my hands, like my palms were raw, and lucky a friend was there. He knew how to tape them up, so he taped all my hands back together. They could barely move. He had taped them that tight, but it was the only way I was going to get back. So when I started the race the next morning, I could barely move my hands, you know, they were so sore. But once you get racing, the adrenaline takes over and you know, you just push through it. So that happened, you know, I finished the race that day. I pulled in through the finish line. I remember some of my friends and a couple of sponsors were standing there and looked out at the handlebars and you could see blood on the grips and you could see blood through my gloves. So we slowly took my gloves off and all the skin had come back off and there was bleeding and making a mess everywhere, but it didn't really matter. We had won, so we didn't really care. So that was pretty exciting. That night you go out to celebrate, go out for a nice dinner, have a few drinks. I remember going out for dinner, having one beer, realizing that my body was hating me for what I just put it through for 2 days, and that was it. I was done, you know. It was go home, try get some sleep, and I reckon that was the worst night's sleep I've ever had because the pain that my body was in from just flogging it for 2 days, it was tough, but it was all worth it. And then the next year, decided to go back again. My goal was to win again, you know. I did it once and I loved the feeling of it. I wanted it again, so I went back the next year. Did everything exactly the same. Everything exactly the same. My hands were stronger this year. I made an effort for that. You know, I got the win again. So that was 2 years in a row, which meant a lot to me. You know, not a lot of guys had done it. It proved that at the time for me, you know, running a business, working, also having a young family, that I also put a huge amount of effort and time into my riding and my racing. And that was the hard thing to do, you know, working days and nights and just making the time to actually ride and do it was really hard, but it was a goal. Like I wanted to win it, and which meant I had to do all the hard work and just make it happen. And that's what I did, you know, and winning that second year, it meant a lot to me again, just for many reasons, I guess. It's just the pride of it and the feeling it gives you. Also, I went back a third year, and my goal was, I knew that after that third year, I wasn't gonna be racing anymore because sponsors were hard to come by. You know, money was tight for a lot of people in the industry for wanting to spend money for racing. So I knew that was my last year of going back with the deal that I had. So my plan was to win it 3 times in a row, which I thought I could achieve, and I put all the same work and effort into it. So that was the go. Prologue, the best I ever had, started up front, felt absolutely amazing on the bike. And then about this 40-kilometer mark, I started to have an oil leak, and I just had something basic, a magneto-covered gasket, broke away a bit and popped out of the cases. So I lost my oil, and by the 60-kilometer mark, the motor was cooked and there was no more going. So that was hard to deal with. That was pretty heartbreaking because it was my goal, and you know, I wanted to do it those 3 times and in a row especially. That was my plan. So it didn't happen, but the experience of it, you know, I had my family there, I had my young daughter there, and the friends you make at Alice Springs, and especially the Finke Desert Race, I should say, is it's a real community, like a family, you know, and I've met people at Finke that I met 15 years ago and I still keep in touch with today. Haven't seen most of them in 10 or 15 years, but you still keep in touch with them, and you just know that if you ever go back there, you get to catch up with the same people, which is really cool. So yeah, that's my Finke experience, which is, as I'm sure you can tell, some pretty special times to me. People ask me, you know, what's the best advice I have for Finke? So, you know, when I was racing quads or there was a quad class there, it was just ride. Just ride and ride and ride and have your bike in great condition and keep your maintenance up. That's the number one thing, you know. Now I get asked the same question, you know, we sell a lot of UTV parts at work, and I talk to a lot of customers that race and they're going out to do Finke, not to win, but just to have fun. Same advice, look after your machine, put quality parts on it, make sure it's reliable, you know, and don't go out with the intention to go as fast as you can from start to finish, because you won't finish. You know, it's hard on the body, it's hard on the vehicle, and just go there and have fun, you know, and good results come with putting all that work in, but not everyone's there to win. And you know, you can just go there, enjoy the time, meet other people, and have a good time around the whole event. So Finke has some really good memories for me, you know, some that'll stay with me for life, not just because of the race, but, you know, other things like when I was at Finke was actually, I found out, you know, 2 days before the race that I was going to be a dad. So that was really cool for me, you know. I remember having a smile on my face that, you know, I was so excited and so happy, and that definitely helped get me through the race. You know, the other years, you know, I was blessed that my daughter was able to come along with me, you know, and we did the road trip as a family. You know, spent a week driving out to Alice Springs. You know, I had a little 2-year-old there with me, you know, helping me work on my quad to go racing, doing everything that needed to be done. And, you know, those memories I think are the most important. 5 years or 6 years later it was, so she must have been about 8. We actually did the road trip out together, just the two of us, you know, not to race this time, it's just to go and support friends, you know, and meet up with customers. And that was really cool experience, you know, doing that together, stopping along the way and just making those core memories. So there's much more that Finke brings to anyone than just riding or just driving. It's a whole experience, which is something I really support and encourage people that if you can ever do it, do it. It's definitely worth it.